Hey guys, it's Ian from the PI Podcast, and today I am going to go over how the Minnesota Vikings can win the NFC North. First off, I want to look at the NFC North a little bit. The Detroit Lions were in last place in the division last year. They have greatly improved. They're going to look like a completely different team out there this year, I think. They're trending in the right direction for real. The Chicago Bears are not trending in the right direction, in my opinion. I think they will be last in the division this year. It's going to be tough for Justin Fields this year in Chicago. The fact that they did not help him at all in the offseason, they actually made the team worse. I think that's a good start in a rebuild. But I think a lot of Chicago fans need to realize this is going to be a rebuild year. They're probably going to play worse than they did last year. Eberflus is a defensive-minded head coach, which doesn't always help out offensive rookie quarterbacks. So we'll see how that goes. Then you've got the Green Bay Packers, who, in my opinion, got worse offensively. However, they did improve defensively. Who knows how their special teams is going to look this year? They had very bad special teams last year. But Aaron Rodgers losing Davante Adams is a huge deal. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to be an MVP again. I think he's going to digress a little bit, not in a fact that he's going to look bad. He just doesn't have wide receivers that are going to help him. Sammy Watkins could come out and be awesome, but he's kind of injury prone, so and he's getting older. He's never really had to lead an offense by himself lately. So I don't think Green Bay's in the driver's seat like they normally are. And I really do think that it's going to be between Minnesota and the Green Bay Packers. Now, with that being said, Minnesota hired an offensive-minded head coach in Kevin O'Connell. He has been ranked like in the bottom tier of coaches. However, I was very impressed with what he did with the Rams. Matt Stafford came in, won a ring. Their offense was explosive. Granted, they have a lot of pieces. But they were able to bring in Odell Beckham late in the season. And, I mean, people were, like, calling the Browns crazy for him coming in and dominating like he did. Cooper Kupp had one of the greatest wide receiver seasons of all time this year. Matthew Stafford, after being in a losing franchise for the last 11 years, look at what he did. He won the Super Bowl. He beat Tom Brady. He beat a very hot Bengals team. And they overcame a lot of injuries, and they were still able to produce when they needed to produce. Granted, like I said, I do understand the Rams have weapons, and he's going to a situation where the weapons aren't quite as great. But look at his team. Kirk Cousins is a very safe quarterback option. I personally think Kirk Cousins gets a lot of unwarranted hate. He's very safe with the football. He's extremely safe with the football. He's not going to go over top of the defense often in a game. However, he's not afraid to take a check down when needed. And his check down options, Dalvin Cook, CJ Ham's one of the better fullbacks in the league. There is a little question mark at tight end. I think right now they're rocking with Irv Smith Jr. and they're hoping he can be the tight end they were hoping when they drafted him in 2019. And then obviously Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson. I mean, Adam Thielen is a number 2 wide receiver in that offense, and he could be a number 1 wide receiver on most offenses in the NFL. So he's got a lot to work with on offense, and I do believe the Vikings defense is underrated as well. They have some pretty good pieces on defense. They had a solid defensive year last year. But to me, it's really going to depend not so much what they do, but what the Packers do. I don't see the Packers winning 10, 11 games again. I do see them winning at least 8. The Packers got steadily worse. on offense, and the offense was what drove them to win games last year. Now, granted, I do like that even though their offense got worse, their defense got better, but their defense is full of a lot of young players. You have to keep an eye on that. The Vikings are pretty much an established team. They're just getting a head coach, and really that's another factor is going to be their head coach if he can perform at the head coaching level. I personally think that division is definitely winnable for either team, Green Bay or the Vikings. I think the Bears will be last. I think the Lions, like I said, trending in the right direction, but I still think the Lions are going to struggle against teams like the Vikings, the Green Bay Packers. I think they'll even struggle against some up-and-coming teams like the Jaguars. Obviously, as a Jags fan, I'm a little biased in that regard, but I do see the Jaguars beating the Lions this year. And the Lions have a kind of tough schedule considering they just won 3 games last year, or 4 games, sorry. So yeah, that's my opinion. I do think the Minnesota Vikings can win. It just depends on how their head coach performs. If their offense can perform at a better level than they did last year. I mean, you got to think the Vikings have struggled against some really bad teams, but they play really good against some good teams last year. Like I said, Kevin O'Connell is going to be a very important piece to this, their offensive production. The Vikings have one of the best backfields in the league. They have one of the top fullbacks. They have 2 really good running backs. They have 2 really good wide receivers. They have an okay offensive line. I mean, that's going to be another questionable piece. Has it improved enough? That we're going to have to wait till preseason to even really judge. Their offensive line is going to look really different this year. And then their defense is going to look pretty similar. I don't think they made any really big acquisitions this offseason. But we're going to see how their rookies play. That's another piece that's going to determine. They literally have to play perfectly in order to make the playoffs. I know every team in the NFL has to play perfectly to make the playoffs, but they really have to. If they want to beat Green Bay, they cannot be making mistakes. And I feel like they made some mistakes last year. Obviously, firing the head coach was a very good step in the right direction. Zimmerman was not the answer. I do think Zimmerman was an okay head coach, but he wasn't anything special. He really couldn't get the job done, and the roster's talented enough to where they should be second in the division every year at least, and pushing for a wild card spot every year. And they should be making the wild card most years with the roster they have. And I really do think if Kevin O'Connell can coach at a head coaching level, they will be fine. They will make the playoffs, at least a wild card. And that's my opinion on the 2022 Minnesota Vikings.
Thank you for watching the PI Podcast. Make sure you subscribe and tune in next time so you don't miss the latest news in the NFL world. You can also follow us on TikTok at PIPodcast and on Twitter at PIPodcasters. Until next time.